Welcome back. Now, AZIMIO Umoja coalition has today affirmed that the anti-government protests slated for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday this week are on. Now, the government, on the other hand, has insisted that the demonstration will not happen, saying that the police have not received official notice regarding the protest. With the political grandstands, what's the end game regarding the demonstrations? Tonight, on the Dialogue K, I'm joined by Eric Mukono, a political analyst. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Kennedy.
And the advocate of the High Court, Tony Towet. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much.
Well, you two can be part of this discussion. You can send in your view or views regarding the topic of discussion on Twitter at HopeTV_KE or at Kennedy Kimani_. The hashtag, as always, is the Dialogue K. Now, gentlemen, I know you've discussed about the opposition protests. I guess this is the third week. Eric, how did we get here?
And it is not yet done. We are still, we still have some more weeks to go.
Yeah.
I think the government knows very well how we got here. We got here because they have refused to listen to what the majority of Kenyans are telling them. The majority of Kenyans are telling them that the cost of living in this country is unbearable. The burden is unbearable for the normal Kenyan. For you and I and Wakili Towet here, the burden is unbearable. So the only way, and because they have refused to listen to us, the only way is to use whatever the Constitution has given us. That is protesting. That is how we got here.
Wakili, let me engage you on this matter. We've seen the opposition leading the protest and not Kenyans. Why are we not seeing Kenyans leading the protest, not waiting for the opposition to say now we have to go to the streets?
No, essentially the political dichotomy is volatile. The reason for this is because, in lesser times you will find, the population or people of this country agitating on issues that, are non-issues essentially. When we were in the political campaigns, the main area that many people, as I've said last time, many people were, campaigning on was about, being able to depend on ourselves as a country. That was number one. Number two was being able to, fend off, this excessive borrowing. And when we got to the place where we are now tackling the bull by its horns, then, naysayers and, people who are cowards would want to run away, because the only way that it seems to be fair is to finance our own budget. Then, rather than going out there to borrow excessively, like I would not want to because they have been saying that every time the government is trying to tackle an issue, it is trying to talk about the woes that was brought by the previous regime. Yet that is true. That should not be really the case, because where we are right now is as a result or was catalyzed by actions that were done by people of the last regime.
So you're blaming the last regime of what you're experiencing today?
Ken, he has said something very, very, very interesting when he started his statement, that we are agitating for things that are non-issues. To him, unga is a non-issue. To him, the price of fuel is a non-issue. This is, probably we are different. I don't know. I think I am in the Mama Mboga and Mutu ya Boda Boda bracket. Him, he is an advocate of the High Court. Probably, but let me try and bring it down to the ground.
What I really meant, I think Mkono is actually taking me.
That's exactly what he meant.
Taking me,
because those are the things we are agitating for. We are only saying, bring the price of unga down, bring the price of fuel down. That is going to make the cost of living.
What you're actually doing is, taking me out of context, because essentially what I was saying is the non-issue is because we remember during the handshake time that, unga was actually slightly even higher than it is today. And it was not an issue. I did not see anyone in the streets. So it means essentially for people to come out to the streets,
Yeah.
they entirely depend on, there should be a starting key. The starting key is where, people make headlines.
Yeah.
And then they start blaming whoever is sitting in State House to know that they are not listening to them. And then in the event, that someone that lost elections is not partaking in the government in any way, then, it brings agitation to people because that key has been turned. The key is turned because we do not see any demonstrations after the coming of this, taking the reins of power by the government. We saw it after some people said, the people who were, like Cherera's 7 guys who were, taken out of office, I mean, they should be reinstated. They have been a constitutional process that, made them, got them removed out of the office.
So to you, it's all political.
Everything is political to me because I do not see the reason why we would say that, of course, people protested in Mlolongo, but we have seen evidence that have surfaced that actually the reason for the demonstration was not actually the cost of living. The people who started this demonstration in Mlolongo are not residents of Mlolongo. They were ferried in buses.
How can you confirm these allegations that they were ferried?
You see,
You also need to remind him he's an advocate. He has to give evidence, and otherwise things will not be very good with him.
I believe that we are still talking politics here, and if we were in a court of law, then I would need to corroborate what I'm saying. But what I am actually talking here is what I'm talking is what is going on, what we see every day in the media. And this Article 37 of the Constitution is not actually, it is not an absolute right.
We'll get to that point.
Let me just help Wakili a bit. He has talked about political, this whole thing being political and pegged on elections and the Cherera for whoever they were. Let me help him a bit. Last Wednesday when we had these protests, Raila Odinga and the AZIMIO brigade actually called off the rally at the Mukunji grounds, right? But still, we had Kenyans come in and demonstrate, right? The last time, I was so surprised, Ken, that in Mount Kenya, a place where I have never seen demonstrations since I was born, and the last time there were demonstrations probably in the early days of Moyera, even before Wakili was born. I mean, this time, last Wednesday, we had demonstrations in Mount Kenya areas like Meru, Nyeri especially.
If he's talking about what Madhakarua, I saw Madhakarua with 3 Ndude guys. I mean, was that demonstration?
Talk about Nyeri. Then what happened in Nyeri? We had a lot of people demonstrating in Nyeri because these are real issues and it has nothing to do with elections. These are people who voted in this government.
Well, Eric, you say
still demonstrating.
Eric, you say that we got here due to the high cost of living.
Exactly, totally.
I mean, we've seen what happened last week in the demonstrations. Is this sustainable, and will this solve the high cost of living being witnessed in the country?
It is what we saw last week is a little bit unfortunate because we had loss of lives. But then, in our previous discussions here at the dialogue, Ken, I've told you, when the president refuses to listen to the people, the very people that elected him, and the legislature also refuses to advocate for what the people are have sent them in parliament to do, then the only thing that we are left to do is to air our views in such forums as protests. Of course, we are just hoping that at some point, the president is going to come back to his minds and to his senses. Because clearly, he is not in his senses, sorry to say. He is not in his senses. So we're just hoping that somehow the Bible that he keeps professing and the Christianity he keeps professing, at least he is going to be a little bit humane and see the kind of lives and the high cost of living in this country and the life that Kenyans are living, and probably just consider having dialogue and just bringing the cost of living down, because it is of course not sustainable. The direction we're heading is bad, but we need to have a dialogue.
So you've actually agreed that the demonstrations are not sustainable.
They are not.
And this week we'll witness 3 demonstrations on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And actually, AZIMIO today affirmed that the demonstrations are on. Before we continue, allow my director to play a clip on AZIMIO today where they had a presser saying that they will have the demonstrations this coming Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That the peaceful protests are planned for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week are on, as earlier declared by our leaders. These protests will go on in line with Article 37 of our Constitution, which, as you all know, provide for freedom of peaceful assembly and picketing. And no person, no authority has got the power to suspend the operation of Article 37 of our Constitution.
Stop any conversation about anything else. Let us talk about food for our people. And that conversation will take place on Wednesday, on Thursday, and Friday. And if people are uncomfortable with that, I have a solution for them. Bring down the cost of living today.
We want to say here to those of you who might be mobilized to come and fight your fellow Kenyans, we are not the enemy. We are not the ones who have added taxation on fuel. All these members of parliament here voted against that bill. You cannot come and fight your fellow hustlers in the streets. You cannot come from Madare and think that you are better than the person who comes from Kasarani. If Kenyans are sleeping hungry because of the price of food, the hustlers are sleeping hungry, and members of AZIMIO are also sleeping hungry.
Well, Eric, you've heard from the AZIMIO MPs, that is Wandai, Enoch Wambua, and Edwin Sifuna, and you're in agreement that bring down the cost of living and will not go for the mandamano.
Simple. That is all we want. Bring the cost of living down, and on Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will go to our offices, work, and go home.
But before then, we had the finance bill that was in contention, and the AZIMIO was saying that it's either you suspend the bill in totality or we go to the protest. The bill has now been suspended. Why are they going to the protest now?
But you see, Kennedy, the finance bill has been suspended, but then the price of unga is still high. You know, EPRA, these guys with EPRA, together with EPRA, have refused to bring down the cost of fuel.
But actually, I'm seeing AZIMIO changing posts right here, because the first time they said it's the finance bill. But now that the finance bill has been suspended, they are saying it's the high cost of living, bring unga down.
It has not. The finance bill, what we were complaining about was whatever you promised us, give it to us. You promised to us a lighter burden when you come into power than what was there in the previous regime. You know, the finance bill was adding to the burden that was already there. Okay, so even before that, what we were agitating for is at least make life bearable for us, just as you had promised. Just as you had promised when you came in for those barazas to meet the wananchi in those counties, the 47 barazas that you did. You promised us that when we come into power, we will at least make things bearable for you. But then the government, actually not AZIMIO that has is shifting goalposts. The government and Wakili Towet here and their people here are the ones who are shifting goalposts, because they say that when we come into power, we are going to make sure that the numerous taxes that are there for fuel, we are going to cut them down. You know, during the debate, his candidate said exactly that. What happened when he came into power? He said, now, I don't think this is wise. We need to review that upwards, you know. He come and sits and thinks the price of funga, if we bring it down by 2 shillings, I think that is going to be bearable for Mwananchi. And then Wakili Towet gets a point here and says that indeed the government has done something and has brought the price of maize flour down. They come here and tell us we are going to subsidize fertilizer. Fertilizer, I talked to my mother the other day, she has never seen that fertilizer. I mean, it was just a cash cow. These guys are just trying to play.
Wakili,
Yes.
away from Eric. I mean, you've seen the demonstrations, how they've been chaotic in a way. Tear gas, throwing of stones, destruction of property. We're supposed to take the responsibility on the destruction of property of Kenyans.
First of all, before we get there, we should actually talk about the germane issue of is Article 37, the right to protest and, you know, the right to demonstration and peaceful procession, an absolute right. You know, it is very clear that Article 24 of the Constitution says that every right in the Constitution will be, you know, enjoyed to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
As these are rights that, you know, are embedded in the Constitution. But Article 25, when you come there are those rights that are absolute rights, like fair hearing, you know, like right to life, those issues that are highlighted in Article 25. But does not include Article 37, the right to you know, to picketing, the right, you know, to the right to, you know, to do peaceful demonstration. It has limits. It's like that. I'm very aware, Mukono saw that the peaceful demonstrations in Homa Bay, for example, that is the true definition of peaceful procession and demonstrations. These other ones is anarchy. I mean, it's breaking of the law. Like, for example, in Mlolongo, before the police, you know, went there to quell whatever was going on there, the destruction had already been done. And when you hear people say that the police force should be trained in modern ways, so to be able to handle and arrest those who are, there are people called the peaceful demonstrators and spoilers of the peaceful demonstrations. But how are the police supposed to, you know, discern who is a spoiler and who is a peaceful demonstrator? When everybody is pelting stones, you could be able to see from the TV that there were stones flying everywhere. How do you get close to arrest a people that are, when there is a jettisons of stones coming your way as a police officer? Even if you are really trained in wherever training you can ever get, there is no way that you can approach such a crowd without, of course, using things like tear gas to be able to disperse people so that you can be able to get in there.
Talking of constitutional rights, just before you continue,
it's easy to identify a spoiler and a peaceful.
Spoiler
has a stone, a peaceful demonstrator does
all right.
not have a stone.
But essentially, everyone has stones.
All right, just before you continue, the government has come in and said that the demonstrations will not happen on Wednesday. All right, and actually, CS Kindiki yesterday talked about the same, and let's watch what Kindiki said yesterday regarding the demonstrations that are going to happen on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Your rights end where my rights start. Haki zako zinaishia mahali haki zangu zinaanzia. Uko na uhuru wa kutupa ngumi hewani, lakini bora usifikie pua yangu. You have a right to box in the air, but your right to box in the air freely ends where my nose starts. Tutaki Kiswahili mingi. Na kwa sababu ujeuri umejaa Kenya hii na kutojali sheria na kujiamini na kiherehere na ujuaji, hiyo Jumatano ambao watu wamesema, wale wahuni wa Ijumaa wamesema watatoka waende wakaharibu mali tena, wajaribu. Tumetayarisha. There is no freedom to riot, to loot, to destroy.
Eric, tough words by the CS Interior. I mean, he's actually called them wahuni. You should not appear on Wednesday on the streets.
I mean, I am very, it's very interesting that he's calling these people wahuni, yet the government also has their own wahuni. How? I know you could ask me. Allow me read you a tweet by one very close ally to the president called Dennis Itumbi. This is what he wrote on, I think on 15th of July. He said, "Dear Maandamano chief sponsor, I am writing to book an appointment on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, when AZIMIO has planned protests.
Yeah.
And I will be accompanied by 2,848 people in each of the places you're likely to be." And he mentioned around 6 places: Nairobi, Kiambu, Nakuru, Mombasa, Muthaiga, Transmara. Now, if there are chaos, then these 248 people, 2,848 people multiplied by 6 will be the goons. You don't need anything else. You need Itumbi to provide these people. That is all you need. I mean, he has already said that he is going to be sponsoring goons to go and meet President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga from where this is going to be. So these are the real wahuni. These 2,848 times 6. I mean, this is a huge crowd, more than even the people AZIMIO will be bringing to Kamukonji and Nairobi to just stage peaceful protests. I mean, we have to be honest with each other, Ken. These are the real wahuni, and the government needs to tackle this head on and realize that whatever is happening around here is also sponsored within there.
Yeah. We've seen the CS saying that there will be no demonstrations. But here is Dennis Itumbi saying that they will go out to meet with the other protesters. I mean, what will this be in case it happens in the country?
You know, sometimes I will not, in as much as I support peaceful procession, I will not be able to advocate for, you know, bringing this group and bringing this group so that they can meet during demonstrations.
But that is exactly what your people are doing in government.
I think you know, Eric is trying to extrapolate the situation. By extrapolating means Itumbi meant that he's going to take these protesters to where Raila Odinga is. Raila Odinga could be in Karen in his home. It does not mean that in the streets. In the tweets, I have not heard where the guy say that he's going to bring them so that they can meet in the streets.
It's actually not even Raila Odinga. This
actually, you know what has been happening with these people from this faction of opposition is that they always.
Ken, you need to tell him that I am not part of the opposition.
You branded him as part of the government. So
yes, he's part of the government, but I am in the people's side.
Okay. Well, what has been happening is that there has been, you know, what do you call, taking things out of context. Like, for example, when Kindiki says that, you know, we will not allow you to or we will meet you during demonstrations. I mean, insinuating that, you know, the police will be there. So this guy say that, you know, the government is out to kill people. No one has said, I mean, if you hear what Kindiki said, no one said that we will come and kill you. No.
Very good. Ken, let me you see, I have a lot of facts today. I have a lot of facts. He's talking about no one has said that we are going to come and kill you. Let me read a tweet today. Is it today or over the weekend? By Moses Kuria.
I was actually going there. You've talked about tweets, and actually Moses Kuria, it was actually on Saturday. He tweeted some cryptic tweets, you know, and actually they are so... I don't think we can mention them on air because actually they were threats, but he never mentioned who is going to die. Yeah, he actually said someone is going to die on Wednesday and then be buried on Saturday.
Exactly.
And then he went on and said, okay, let me quote it in Swahili. Unasimama mbele ya bus imebeba abiria 53 million, itapita na wewe. He went on again and said, cash reward 50 million. And he also tweeted again and said, so you wait for us to vote for him now, you have forced him to a handshake, tuache kwa mata over my dead body. I mean, these are old CS. I remember the first dialogue that we had, discussion, we talked about Moses Kuria.
And he defended him so much.
Yeah. I mean, this tweet, who was it targeted to?
I think might have been the Twitter account was hacked, something. Because essentially, the last time I was defending Moses Kuria was about the
media.
yeah, the spark with the media.
Yeah.
Yeah, that of course, I said that in as much as, these guys are being castigated for, talking in such a manner, the media has also been going against these guys. And that was essentially what I was saying. But for this, what you have highlighted right now, I think maybe the Twitter account was hacked or something. Because even Dr. Miguna's account has been hacked many times, where you see the tweet he's supporting the other side, then he comes and say this is a fake, tweet. That we are really in a confusion.
These are pure lies. These are pure lies. You can even see it on his face that this is a pure lie. This was said on Saturday.
Yep.
We had Sunday, and today is Monday. We have not seen Moses Kuria come and tell us, Kenyans, we are sorry. And I realized somehow that my Twitter account was hacked.
Yeah.
Actually, after that, there are many more tweets that he has done after that very, very, very bad tweet there.
Yeah.
So how then, this is just a case of either they mean what they are saying, that they are actually going to do it to whoever they want to do it to, or this is just a case of a rogue public officer, which I believe it is the second case.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, let's move away from who said what.
And actually, even after that, Senator Gerald Gay, a day later, tweeted sniper. I mean, his Twitter account was also hacked.
Anyway, let's move on from there. We've actually seen yesterday the religious leaders came out and they're actually calling for dialogue between the two leaders, that is President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Is this feasible? Can we see a dialogue?
I'd like a situation where, the two leaders come together and talk on the way forward. Because essentially, as Mukono has agreed, this demonstration thing or this anarchy they are calling is not tenable. It is going to,
It's not anarchy. We are just raising our concerns.
You see, it is anarchy because you're not going as per the requirements of the Constitution.
On what grounds?
Because Article 37 envisages, peaceful demonstrations like those ones that happen in Homa Bay, But or like those ones that Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka led in his home at the beginning of these demonstrations, where people walk in the street, they have twigs, But these ones of yours, people, are carrying stones, wielding stones.
What happens in a case scenario where the police provokes the protesters? You see, these people, the police are also protesting because you guys promised them a salary rise and you've not delivered it. So they are also trying to tell you, you just had something. They are also trying to...
Guys, we are diverting from the main topic.
These are really assumptions, because when we talk about, provocation, who provoked the Mlolongo protesters? Actually, the police went in there after the damage had already been done,
Well, Eric, a dialogue between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Is it possible?
I think it's possible, but the kind of dialogue we need is not a dialogue on how we're going to share government. It's not a dialogue of how we're going to constitute the IEBC. Right now, whatever we need is a dialogue on how we're going to make the burden lighter for the normal Kenyan.
Yeah.
Wakili is not a normal Kenyan. Let me just say you and I, how the burden is going to be made lighter for you and I. That is the kind of dialogue that we need at this moment. So it is important that
the high cost of living.
Yes, a dialogue on the high cost of living.
Wakili, as we conclude, what's the end game?
I believe I agree with Mukono when he says that we should not be looking at reappointing the IBC guys who were like dismissed. We should not be looking at a handshake type of dialogue. We should be looking at a sustainable dialogue. But when Mukono says that we have to bring the cost of living down today, it means that we have to employ subsidies so that we can be able to do what he is saying. Because the president cannot come and say, you are going to buy unga today at 90 bob without, getting into the exchequer and then giving it to the, these millers and distributors so that they can take the cost of living down.
So what's the end game regarding all these protests and the hard stance between the two sides?
The end game is, if there is protest, let it be peaceful. Because I do not think for a second that, a government will watch properties like Eastmart lost millions of shillings.
Not from protesters, that was from goons. You need to differentiate between protesters and goons.
Okay, let him finish. Let him finish.
Yeah, it is if people are sitting here today, and then as a result of our sitting, there is something that happens, that goes against the rights of people or property. When we are taken before a jury, it's going to be hard for the jury to say these ones or this one only, or we cannot be able to differentiate who did what, who did not.
So after the peaceful protests, what do the AZIMIO team want to achieve?
You see, I will just regard this as a firing. Whatever AZIMIO is trying to achieve is going to be achieved at a greater cost than it was worthwhile for the victor. It's a firing because everything that they want, I saw their letter, their presser letter, where they are saying that we are in a third liberation. I thought it was about Unga. What are we liberating ourselves from?
Eric, what is the end game of AZIMIO as you conclude? 1 minute, please.
We need the president to come down to the people and listen to the people. That is all we need, because the guys he's sitting with here do not understand what the people are going through at the bottom. Do not understand what Mama Mboga and Mtu ya Boda Boda is going through. We need the president down to bring his arrogance down and listen to the people of Kenya and the mwananchi of kawaida. That should be the end game.
So the president will listen to Kenyans?
The president should listen to Kenyans.
Oh, okay. Any addition?
As you know, people are having a very powerful discourse about having an African free trade area, having African economic bloc, moving to green energy, empowering the African Exim Bank, detaining ourselves from the effect of the dollar. And this issue of dollar is even being discussed in the Asian countries today. I can show you a tweet that people in the Middle East are talking about how they can be able to buy the oil without using the dollar.
Yeah.
Because essentially the dollar is the one that is, bringing disarray in the financial topology.
So the dollar is actually bringing all these economic crises.
Yes, because essentially the reason why our president was, proposing to buy to buy oil using the Kenya shilling is because we have shortage of dollars in Kenya.
It's just not a problem of Kenya, it's actually global.
It's a global problem because...
They're adding the problem with the finance bill. These guys...
Oh, I guess our time is up.
The problem with what we are doing here is, tying the issues to finance bill. Finance bill is a different creature. And then what I am talking about, where we're having... When we're having serious discourses right now, people are calling for anarchy. Just imagine.
We cannot have such a discussion when the normal Kenyan is having food on the table.
All right, gentlemen, this discussion will not end. And actually, you can join in the conversation on Twitter at HopeTV_KE. The hashtag, as always, is the dialogue KE. But as of now, the dialogue KE has come to an end. Many thanks, Tony Towet, the advocate of the High Court, and Eric Mukono, a political analyst, for coming to the show today. Now, on behalf of the whole team that made this broadcast a success, have yourself a blessed night. My name is Kennedy Kimani, and Fiona Moresa has been the sign language interpreter.